Imagine experiencing the Adirondacks, Lake Champlain, and Canada all in one unforgettable trip. Today, my expert guest will show you how. Chrissy, what is something visitors wish they knew before they visited the Adirondacks?
Visitors oftentimes hear Adirondack Park and they think they're going to somewhere like Yellowstone or the Grand Canyon where there's an admission. But little do they know once they get here, it's not your traditional state park. You're walking into different areas, different attractions, and you're talking about millions and millions of acres to visit. So I really think visitors want to know that this is nothing like any state park you've seen before.
That is awesome. And we're going to dive into the section of the Adirondacks that you are an expert in. I can't wait. I personally visited this area for the first time just a month or so ago, and I love it. So I'm really excited about this episode. To my listeners, thank you so much for listening or watching. If you're new here, this podcast, Inspired Travels with Patti, was created to inspire you to live life more fully. And for me, that's through adventure. So exploring new areas, experiencing new things, and certainly meeting incredible people. And you could catch the podcast either on podcast platforms or watch us on YouTube. My guest today is truly an expert, Kristy Kennedy, Vice President of Marketing, Operations and Business Development for the North Country Chamber of Commerce and Director of Tourism for the Adirondack Coast Visitors Bureau. For more than 18 years, she helped showcase one of New York's most beautiful regions, connecting visitors with the best places to explore, experience, and enjoy. Today, she's sharing insider tips, hidden gems, and everything you need to know to plan an unforgettable Adirondack getaway. Welcome, Chrissy, to Inspire Travels with Patti.
Thank you so much. I'm excited. This will be fun.
I am super excited, and we're going to talk about your area of expertise in the Adirondacks, because as we've talked about before I hit play, the Adirondacks is 6 million acres. So we're going to focus on an area today, so people can see what there is to do in Lake Champlain, crossing the border into Canada, and all that good stuff. But take us back a little bit to the beginning. What sparked your passion for tourism? And when did you realize helping people discover this region was what you wanted to do?
So, I am a native here. I graduated high school from this area. My family's from here. Um, and I thought this is great for those who remember this. I thought I was going to be the next Casey Kasem and do the top 40 countdown on radio. Like that was what was going to be my career choice. And I got into that career and discovered it's a lot of by yourself time in a booth, and I needed people and creativity. So I started honestly looking around for things that let me do that in my hometown. And I'm not always a big like, let's manifest this, but I remember thinking to myself, you know what'd be really great? Being in marketing and talking to people about my hometown. Like it's a hidden gem and there's amazing things to do here, but people don't know. The next day, because I've been here now for 18 years, I opened the newspaper where everyone goes to look for their jobs. And there was a job here at the Chamber and the Visitors Bureau in tourism marketing. And as I went through the process of learning more of what that was, it was everything I kind of had hoped to do. Talk to people about this incredible place that I live, where I explore and play, and introduce it to people. And since then, I've just continued to grow in this field, learn what hospitality is and tourism marketing, and continue to explore the Adirondacks myself.
And you could just hear, even 17 years later, the excitement. And that's what really connected me, really inspired me, and why I wanted you on the podcast to share that excitement with my listeners. So, for people like me who had heard of the Adirondacks, I'll be honest, I didn't even know how to, I kept pronouncing the name wrong. So, just
Yep.
being transparent here. Um, what areas, so you are the chamber for a certain area. Let's talk and get people to really hone in on that area because that's what we're going to talk about today.
Well, the best thing about the Adirondacks in general is, like you said, it is 600 million acres. So there's a lot of little areas to explore within the Adirondacks. And I think it has a notion sometimes that we are just a mountain area. You have to come here, you're going to be super outdoorsy, you better be able to climb high peaks for days or ski Olympic mountains for days. And the nice thing is about that is because it's so big, there's a little bit something for everybody. So my focus is and where I'm based out of in the part of the Adirondacks I get to tell the story about is the northern part. Like you said, we are situated right on the Canadian border, about an hour south of Montreal. We have the Green Mountains of Vermont on our other half. And I always say I'm the top little corner of New York State where, some people think we are Canadian, and I'm totally honored by that. I love the influence we have from a country border near us. And we have a beautiful lake. We're very much a water destination when it comes to the Adirondacks. And we're also a great place where it's gentler. You can kind of have your introduction to mountains and the outdoors here when you kind of come north. So we call it the Adirondack Coast, but it's the northern part of the Adirondacks.
For people listening on the podcast, we are also going to put some pictures and video in the YouTube side. So as you're describing it, we will get some pictures of it.
Great.
I also visited, I just want to add in Lake George, which is not necessarily part of the region we're talking about here, but it is, all of these areas are this amazing area of water and mountains in the background. And it is just incredible. For people who are newer to the show, I lived outside of Philadelphia my whole life, so I've heard about the area. I had this idea of what it would look like, nothing like I imagined. And having traveled full-time in an RV back and forth across the country 3.5 times, the areas that I have now been to are so different and so unique. And yes, you get an idea of mountains, but being in the water with the mountains surrounding you, a whole different feel. So today I want to jump in and give people the tips for this area. We are also absolutely going to talk about crossing the border into Canada. I found out, and I've never ever been to Canada, so I really want to go. I was in a campground that's just 20 minutes into Canada, and I realized you're not allowed to go into Canada with certain rental cars. So we need information so we are able to go into Canada with ease. But before we jump into that, let's talk about some things that people are asking. Let's talk about this area. What are some of the things that coming into this area, you touched on it a little bit, but that surprised the first time visitors?
What a lot of people get blown away with is the amount of beaches and waterways that there are to explore in this Adirondack area. You bring in Lake George, which I think is so crucial to know about, because one of the best things if you're trying to plan to come to this area is you need a place to start. And working north to south is wonderful. We plan a lot of visitor itineraries where they start in Lake George, they go to Lake Placid, which is really well known, and then they come up to the Plattsburgh region, and then they head north into Montreal, or they do it backwards. So utilizing all of those components and all those different cities and towns is wonderful to make your stay here in the Adirondacks. There are things that surprise people. A lot of the history is a really big surprise for people in this area. The Battle of Valcour with the American Revolution was on our waters here in Lake Champlain. I also always tell people they're surprised that Benedict Arnold here was considered a hero. It wasn't until he went south, more into the Saratoga area, that he became a traitor. So that's always something that people don't know. Our pivotal point in the War of 1812 is also something that visitors don't always expect to hear. Peace was actually found here, and the Treaty of Ghent was signed, but there were more battles that happened because back in the day they didn't have email. who knew? So they couldn't tell people that they had come to a resolution. So there's a lot of history here that I think people don't always expect. And a lot of that is due to our waters. The different water, not only Lake Champlain, but our connection into the Hudson and even up into Canada's waterway with the St. Richelieu and things like that. So there's a lot of that history that you come to discover by means of outdoor recreation, which is fantastic. I think, like I alluded to earlier in our conversation, a lot of people don't know that you don't have to be a pro to enjoy the outdoors. You don't have to come with, 6 days of supplies in your backpack and big old hiking boots, but we have some really great trails that can lead you out to see the green, lush trees that we have and lead you in actually to some of those waters, giving you great views in both summer and fall as well. But I think a lot of it tends to be the water and the accessibility that we have.
My first trip there up in that area, and it was, and you could correct me, it was way north where
Yep.
I was, whatever that,
Yep.
what's that area called? You know where I was. It was at the
You were up
campground.
in Champlain, Rouse's Point area. Yes, our
Champlain,
northern
yeah.
tier. Yep.
Yeah, so I flew into Vermont
Hmm.
and I rented a car and I was driving to Champlain, New York, and all of a sudden my trail, actually I was going to Plattsburgh first to a hotel, and all of a sudden there's a ferry and
Yep.
I didn't know. So note to self and for other people, look at where your map is taking you so you're prepared.
We get a lot of that. People will come and they'll be like, "Well, we're coming from Vermont, but we want to swing over. But we see there's a ferry." And I'm like, "It's 12 minutes. You can drive your car on it. You're fine." They're like, "Well, no, in your case, I know you're a big RV person." They'll be like, "Well, I'm coming with a camper." And I'm like, "Yep, the camper can go right on there. You'll see tractor trailer trucks." And it's always an awe-inspiring moment for people.
Right, because all of a sudden I was actually on a phone call and all of a sudden the ferry appeared.
Yes.
And I was like, wait a minute, I've never done
What am I
this.
doing?
I was by myself and I was just in a car. So thank you for saying that. People who are in an RV, a camper, absolutely you could get on. For me, the car cost less than $20. I actually rolled down my window and asked the guy, I was like, is there some other way? Because I totally wasn't sure, wasn't prepared. This is about being prepared. And he said, well, there is another way, but you're going an hour out of your way. He said the ferry takes like 12 minutes, what you said. And I was like, okay. So I got on less than, like I said, $20. And it was beautiful. I have never seen Lake Champlain, let alone being on it. It was just beautiful, and the mountains in the background. So again, the point of this podcast, be prepared. Yes, you could get on with an RV, like you said, tractor trailers even, so any size RV can go on the ferry. And it was a very cool experience. So yes, then I went right over into Plattsburgh, which is where I was staying. So all of these things are great to know. Lake Champlain is amazing. Let's talk a little bit more about what I'd like to get from you is the kinds of questions that people are asking. What are the big things that people are looking for? You said there's history, and that was amazing, the history throughout this area. What are some other things that people are looking to do while in this area? We are talking more northern, like upstate New York, Lake Champlain down to Plattsburgh. That's your area that you guys cover. So what are some of the big things that people look to do in these areas?
The number one thing by nature of who we are is getting outside in any capacity that may be. We have a very large population that cycles. So road cycling, not necessarily mountain biking, but road cycling. I'm sure when you were here, we have a lot of open roads, wide shoulders, beautiful views. It is very popular with our Canadian visitors. So they'll, where you were talking about in Champlain and Rouse's Point, they'll come across the border, they'll go there, and then they will cycle all around the area and then come into Plattsburgh, or if they go farther south, even into Lake Placid or Lake George or one of those, they come and have dinner. They may do some shopping and they head back home. So cycling is a very big deal here. Boating. Lake Champlain is actually 120 miles long. So it's a very large lake. And it is Coast Guard regulated, but it's also a lake that can take large sailboats, large power boats in the Adirondack area. So we get a lot of visitors who will bring their boats up, whether they're coming through the Hudson and the locks and things like that. So a lot of big sailboats, a lot of the yachts and things like that, exploring our waterways. I staying on water kayaking. We have rivers and streams, so anything like that. The nice thing about the northern tier of the Adirondacks is it's the gentle introduction to it. And I know I've said this multiple times, but it's good for those who are wanting to begin kayaking and canoeing and hiking, all those key things. The other thing I will caveat is most people think of us in the summer, but the fall and fall foliage is another reason people, the sights, the sea, lots of open roads for, driving and really taking in the colors that, again, I took for granted for so long, and now I see in a very different way. So I would say that's the bulk of it. Outside of outdoor recreation, because that's what everyone knows, and history, agriculture. You can't go anywhere here without seeing an apple tree in the fall. Most people come and pick apples. We're the largest producer of McIntosh apples outside of Washington State. We have the world's largest and oldest orchard, I believe, of McIntosh apples here as well. Cheeses and artisan producers, we do have a lot of as well. So we do find a lot of people come for maple and cheese and apples and berries and kind of understanding land as well.
Let's talk about the fall leaves. Again, lived in Pennsylvania most of my life. When I moved out to Las Vegas and I was there for 3 years, I miss those fall leaves. You do not see them in Las Vegas,
I bet
obviously.
not.
No. So I realized how much I miss seeing the fall leaves. And I've, gone down the coast and up the coast, but I cannot wait to be up in New England for the fall leaves. And I already have plans to be there in August, September, and I'm working on plans to be, and in October, actually, I have plans to be there in October. It, from what I understand, is spectacular. It's not something you could really explain or I can't imagine how you explain the beauty of the fall leaves up in the New England area. And so definitely looking forward to that. I have a couple different directions I just wanted to go in all at the same time because I really am excited about this area. Let's talk a little bit about the area. If I'm coming into the area, so for me, I'm no longer in an RV, so I am staying sometimes in hotels, and I don't love that, but we'll talk about places for people to stay. I've stayed in campgrounds, so I've stayed in the cabins or yurts. I'm not a tenter, not my thing, but there are places that people could stay. So let's talk about when people come into the area, either in a camper or if they don't have one, being able to stay in these areas.
Absolutely. I think the Adirondacks is kind of thought of as having all the quintessential lodging that you can be looking for. So everything from campgrounds, like you said, whether it's RV, whether it's tent, whether it's you want to rent your RV and it's there, and cabins and cottages, we have all that. We have a lot of short-term rentals as well. So if you're looking for a place to stay on the water, that's usually your best option. When you get deeper into the Adirondacks too, short-term rentals tend to be the best option for you because there aren't major hotels as you get deeper into the Adirondacks. And then, as you mentioned here, we do have every major hotel chain that you can think of in this area as well. So it really depends on who you're traveling with and how you're traveling and how long you want to be here to explore all the options. But there is really something for everybody and every amenity that you could need. Um, I I know sometimes you say Adirondacks and people think they're all like one road towns and you don't have everything that you need, but really in the Adirondacks, when it comes to lodging or anything, dining, all of those amenities, there is something that will fit everybody's needs, and any type of lodging that you're looking for, you can find here. It's just, what are you creating? What experience are you creating?
Now, I want to let people know I do work for now a company called Happy Grounds. We have 18 campgrounds in the Northeast.
Mhm.
Three of them are in the area that you are in.
Yeah.
And so I want to talk a little bit about that. I just want to let people know it's not sponsored. We are part of the Chamber of Commerce, Northern Country Chamber of Commerce, but I want to let people know we do have a campground that is up in Champlain, New York. I didn't get the opportunity to stay there, and I was very disappointed. They have a duplex, and that is my next trip up there. That's where I'll be staying. This duplex is two complete two-bedroom apartments. It has everything in it that you need to stay right in Champlain, New York, on Lake Champlain. The campground is on Lake Champlain, and it is only, I think, 20 minutes into Canada. Am I
Yep.
correct? You would know better than I do.
So from Champlain, you're about 5 minutes to the border, and
Okay.
then you're about 20 to 30 minutes into Montreal, which is the city most people would go explore if they were in New York and moving north.
Okay. And we're going to talk about that now because, okay, so 5 minutes into Canada. As a matter of fact, the way that I came when I came up, so I went north from Plattsburgh into Champlain, New York. I saw the cute little town there, and then there was a sign, and the border was just a few minutes away. I didn't realize. And so let's talk about going into Canada from wherever you're staying in New York.
Yep.
There have to be some things. The one thing I learned was I had a rental car, and you cannot take just any rental car into Canada. So you're the expert. Let's talk about it.
Absolutely. Well, it's funny. When you're in this area, whether it's the northern part, Plattsburgh, Peru, Chazy, Rouse's Point, Champlain, the really the northern part of the Adirondacks, everything is tied to Quebec. You'll see road signs that are French. You'll see just signage in general that is bilingual. Most of us have some sort of French heritage as well. We really pride ourselves in the Quebec and New York relationship. Um, Wholeheartedly, they're our number one visitor, and we frequent just as much. There is definitely a very much exchange, not only in tourism, but you'll even see it in our like business entities as well. We have a lot of Quebec-based companies here, so it's something when you're not from here, are taken aback by, but when you live here, you're like, oh yeah, La Marche, oh yeah, LeBlanc. Like you just kind of that's who you are. Um, as long as you are prepared to cross the border, there's really no issues. There's nothing to be nervous about. You're not going to be interrogated or questioned or things like that. As far as the rental company and the rental car is concerned, if you are driving by rental car, just make sure that the company here, so say for instance Enterprise, also is on the other side of the border.
Okay.
Um, that's really it. So Hertz is always a really good one to go and use if you're using a rental car because they are on both sides of the border and they can facilitate that. The big thing when you're traveling um, is just having proper documentation, and that's a passport or an enhanced license. Those are the two easiest ways, and really the only ways besides if you have a Nexus card to get through the border. Um, Again, you present those when you go through, they take a look and they will like ask you a few questions and then you're on your way. It's typically no more than a 5 minute maybe exchange, 2 or 3 minutes, really honestly, between you and the border agent, and then you're free to go. And then when you enter back into the US after, they're just going to ask how long you were there and do you have anything to declare and bring back. Those, for that information, if check out the websites that will actually tell you what you can and cannot bring back. But most of the time, it's a fairly smooth transaction.
And I know the Northern Country Chamber of Commerce has information about crossing the border because there are certain things you can't take into Canada or bring out of Canada, correct?
Correct. On our website, which is northcountrychamber.com, we have links, and our Visitors Bureau site is actually Go Adirondack. So if you find either of those websites, you're going to find everything you need to know about going through the border. We even have things like links to wait times, so you know the best time of day to go through, so you're not sitting in traffic, although that isn't really a problem as much as it used to be. But you can find everything that you need to know to enter as well as get back home.
And I love that. And I'll put that link in the show notes so people could just go there and have all the information they need. The biggest thing that I've heard, especially from RVers, and we'll talk about it, is getting into Canada and the difficulty. And I will say, most of the time it was because they just weren't properly prepared. So like you said, proper documentation, there's things you can't take in to Canada or bring back from Canada. So as long as you know what that is, smooth sailing.
Absolutely. And I think especially RVs and campers and things like that, if you're traveling by car, it's a little easier because you're not bringing as much with you. Definitely, if you're an RV, they're going to ask you a lot more questions than if you're in the car. Food is a big one. I know campers like to stock up before they go across the border. So I would say make sure you check out what you can and cannot bring. Some of it you just might need to get on the other side of the border when you get there for ease. But it's like you said, as long as you're prepared. But those tend to be the bigger items. And then returning, just did you shop? How much? What did you get? Things like that. Like know your information before you go. But it's not scary. It's not intimidating. Most of those agents are just doing their job, but they're very, very friendly and they want a smooth transaction.
Right. And while sometimes you think they're just being difficult, either going in or coming out, there are reasons like
Mhm.
plants and fruits and
Yeah.
vegetables. We don't want to bring invasive species. So that's a whole
That's
nother
more what it
thing.
is.
Yeah. And there's sometimes reason, like you said, and I'm going to tell my listeners, look at the website, look at your website. It's very comprehensive. It has so much great information there for people to help them explore the area, cross the border, all of that. And once you know, then it just makes things easier. You don't have to deal
Oh,
with
yeah.
it when you get there.
And it's
Um,
nice. Go Adirondack.com, which is the tourism site. So if you're looking for what to do in this area, that's where you're going to go. We also have on there just tips and tricks you need to know about crossing the border, like what is Fahrenheit to Celsius? Yeah, like there's different kilometers to miles, and you're thinking you're driving one, and vice versa. We've had our Canadian visitors here who are like, "Well, no, I'm going this," and we're like, "No, we have to make those." Um, Switches and so we try to prepare you even as that, and at the end of the day it is a border to two different countries, and while I'm so fluid and I love the exchange that we have between people, we there is that sometimes we take for granted and we forget that we are talking about two separate countries and things like that, and how fortunate we are that honestly it is that easy to visit two different countries and have a relationship like we do.
Right, right. And I am definitely going to plan going into Canada. Now, this makes me feel better because I have to be totally honest. I was a little concerned about going into Canada by myself.
Absolutely.
And you have now talked me through it. I welcome people to go with me, but if not, it is something I am going to do this year. I mean, having lived so close to Canada, basically, and never been there. So this year, definitely going to plan that
Yeah.
trip. So I'll be all prepared. I'll look at the websites to be prepared for it. Let's talk a little bit. So I did mention that we have campgrounds in the area. A lot of my listeners are RVers, and I just want to point out the campground we're talking about is called Kings Bay Campground. We Happy Grounds owns these campgrounds now. We are making a lot of updates and changes. This, I feel, and I'm not just saying this because I work for the company, it is a beautiful campground. It is right on Lake Champlain. Like I said, it has duplex that I could go stay in. And it is just beautiful, all remodeled. There are a lot of campsites for any size RV and or if you want a tent. the nice part is being right on Lake Champlain. Now, the one thing I learned, which is kind of funny, there are cabanas. And when I was there back in May, they were talking about the beach. And I had done a whole tour of the campground. So I said, where's the beach? Well, the beach comes when the water recedes. So
Yep.
we've had to be very clear with people. You can't just come at any time and expect the beach to be there. It may not show up till what I just learned, the end of July, until the water recedes. So it's all about nature and when that happens. But yes, you could kayak, you can paddleboard in there in Lake Champlain. It does stay pretty cold though, right?
It does. It's not like it's a large lake, so it takes a while to warm up. We've had a great couple weeks of sun, so if you're at the beaches, where you're going to be swimming, that depth is going to be warm. You're not going to be cold. But if you're boating and you're out in the middle of the lake, it's going to be cold because it's deeper. That's like the scenario you just described is exactly what I love about this destination. It's nature at its finest. We're at the mercy of water and how that works within just the science of that and seeing that happen. There's multiple beaches. There's a couple other spots that aren't necessarily at the campground you're talking in the Rouse's Point, Champlain area. The Plattsburgh City Beach is actually the second largest freshwater beach in the United States, and that's open from end of May right on through, and there's always some sand, but there can be times there's more sand than others. But watching that natural progression happen is interesting. We host major league fishing tournaments, bass fishing tournaments here, and seeing the way they experience the lake and what it has to offer is super magical. So I love when you talk about that because I think of that in so many different facets of the Adirondacks and what you get to see. The leaves, watching them turn from bright green in August to these brilliant, almost matching the colors of my dress by the beginning of October is kind of a wild thing to be able to experience. And I think that's what makes the Adirondacks, especially the coast, so incredible and such
Yeah.
a place to come back to over and over again because every time there's going to be something new for you to experience.
And I can't wait. I'm glad that I'm going to be there in August, September, and October to see the changes. And again, I'll take the pictures, I'll post them, I'll do the podcast episode and all of that in video for YouTube, but it's not the same as getting out there and experiencing it. So we're in Lake Champlain. That's where we have Kings Bay Campground. And then we go about 30 minutes, and you could correct me,
Yeah.
to Peru,
Yep.
New York,
Yep.
which is where we have another campground called Ausable Pines.
Mhm.
And then just 5 minutes from there is Ausable River. So
Yep.
there are options. In that area where Ausable Pines and Ausable River is, again, a great place to stay, even if you want to go into New York, just takes about 40 minutes. What is there anything more? And that's where you're talking about is the Plattsburgh area, right?
Well, so I say Plattsburgh because that's our major city here, but any of this area that we're talking about is very accessible and has, I mean, from the Canadian border where Kings Bay is down to Sable, you're talking 30-40 minute drive. So there's a lot to experience here. If you're down closer to those other two campgrounds, which in the fall is my favorite place to be, that's Peru, New York. About 15 minutes from Plattsburgh, which I kind of tell people tends to be the hub of where you are. That's apple country. So that's where some of our biggest and most family-owned orchards are. A lot of agriculture there. That's where Ausable Chasm tends to is right in that area, which is like we call it the Grand Canyon of the Adirondacks. Lots of waterfalls and rock formation. There's so much to do in that area. There's one of the oldest golf courses where presidents have played golf. Bluff Point is right there as well. Ausable Point Day Park and Beach is in that area. It has an iron ore sandy beach. So wear sandals because it's got a little black tinge to it, but it's incredible. And it's like one of the top 10 places in the United States for birding. So if you're somebody who has that hobby, we get a lot of people there. So that area, if you were a camper and you were staying at a campground in that, there is so much to do. One of the orchards there has been family owned. They're on their third, I believe, third generation. It's Rolf's Orchard. And I bring my nieces and nephews there. That's where we get our apples. That's where we get our pumpkin. We have our cider donuts. That is the epitome of like, Peru is the epitome of your fall destination as well. So, um, yeah, I always say we talk about Plattsburgh because that's kind of the recognizable city, so to speak. But anything from Champlain to Rouse's Point down to the Peru area, even into Shazy, where we have a lot of our maple, it's an incredible area and really accessible, all within like 40 minutes back and forth and around. So,
Well, thank you for adding all of that because I stayed at a hotel in Plattsburgh.
mhm.
I visited the campgrounds, but I was only actually there for a day, so I did
Yeah.
not get the chance to explore the area. So you have given me a lot of great tips for when I go back in the next 2 months. I'll be
Yep.
back in the area of things to see. I'd love, the Grand Canyon of
Yes.
New York, the
And that's
waterfall.
one you say there's words that people, because we have a lot of Iroquois and French influence, it's Ausable Chasm, and I love to hear people try to pronounce it because it's all over the place. And Pointer Rush State Park, we have a lot of influence you'll see too in the area.
I was told when I started working for the company and we were talking about the different campgrounds and the names, I was told that people are very picky about it being said correctly. So I
Yep.
practiced it over and over again
Ausable,
because,
yes.
yeah, Ausable, because you want to just say Ausable,
Possible.
what it looks like. And
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yes.
so yes.
We make it complicated. It's much more fun that way.
Absolutely. And it
Yeah.
is for people listening, it is AU, capital A, U, capital S, ABLE. So
Yes.
that helped me remember how to say it. But there is so much more to do in these areas. I'm so
Mhm.
excited. I'm going to start planning my trip for August up into that area. I think it's August. I'll be back in that area.
Nice.
And you just gave me so much to do. I'm really going to have to spend some time, it's a job,
Yes.
I have to do it. I'll
Yes,
totally run for the team.
exactly.
Um,
We even have like built out itineraries on our website because exactly how you started this conversation, it's hard to know what to do. We're talking about 600 million acres of land. So on Go Adirondack, we have pre-built our itineraries to help people kind of be like, you can put these together here and you can have this day there. Because it is scary. It's scary when you're starting to
mhm.
look at, a place to go and you're not thinking, oh, there's just one town and I can wander around. So you do need a car or some mode of transportation. That's another great tip. You can't just come here and expect you're going to Uber everywhere or be able to walk. Like you definitely need a car or some form of transportation to get around. But we do try on all the resources that we have available to make it easy for you to understand how to get around and kind of create some ideas and things like that for you as well.
And that is great. This is all such important information. I started the podcast because I really want to help people go out and explore. And
Yeah.
whether that is me driving 5 hours, 6 hours to get to some of these places, or people that are from Canada or upstate New York that haven't explored these places, that's what it's about. So making it easier, giving people, like you said, an itinerary. Give me some of the things to do. We didn't talk about some of the hidden gems as opposed to the tourist areas. For me, I love to go into areas and ask a local, where do you go have dinner? Like
Yeah.
that's not touristy, but sometimes I want to hit those touristy places. So I think we've covered so much of that. Couple corrections I want to make. Number one, I said 6 million acres. It is 600.
It's expansive. Yes. That's the
It's a
scary part.
little different.
Yes.
It is 600 million acres of the Adirondack. So people don't get overwhelmed. Pick an area, go into that area, decide how much time you have, look at the itinerary. The other thing is it's northcountrychamber.com. I think I said northern, so I want to make it clear. And there will be a link in the show notes to help people. You've given so much great information, and I'm sure there's a wealth more of information. So it's awesome to have resources that you guys have provided for my Canadian listeners. We do have things on the website that you are going to help us translate into French as needed. So we're working together to do that. So we welcome our Canadian neighbors to come in and, like I said, there are campgrounds now people can come stay at. So I'm going to put a plug in for our Happy Grounds community that provides campgrounds throughout New York. So even if you want to expand even further. But Chrissy, I can't thank you enough for all the incredible information. I know I learned so much today.
Good.
So I am incredibly grateful that you took the time to come on and share with me and my listeners.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure. And, we are willing to answer any questions they may have. So if they get to the website and they're still confused, please reach out. We have a good team here ready to help you explore the Adirondacks.
That's great. That was my next question. How can people get their questions answered? So I'll put it again in the show notes, the Adirondacks website and Northern Country Chamber website, so people can plan that trip that they are looking to take and not come back and say, I woulda, coulda, shoulda, wish I knew about that. That's what we're trying to avoid here. So again, thank you. If people have questions for me, please reach out. I'm on Inspire Travels with Patti, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I am easy to reach, so if you have any questions. And if this episode inspired you, please hit that follow button, the subscribe button, whatever button's there to hit. It's really helpful for this show. Thank you for listening.